So I've been asked to speak a little about our experiences as Muslim women and the Islamophobia that we face across British society. So I could tell you about the fact that the UK government's Women's and Equalities Committee ranked Muslim women as one of the most deprived groups in society because we face a triple discrimination, being women, racialized, and Muslim. And then I could go on to paint a picture of what it's like across Europe, where at least 1 in 3 countries have applied a legal restriction on Muslim women's dress, with almost half introducing bans, including on the headscarf, within workplaces and public institutions like hospitals. And where physical and verbal abuse against us has skyrocketed, especially with fascist politicians being elected into power throughout the continent. So I could go on with this very, very, very long list, but I feel that all I have to really do is pass the mic around, and we probably have a book of stories by the end of my 15 minutes, because you all know very well how it manifests, how we are shown across the headlines and television screens, how our parents prepare us for the casual racism at school, university, work, and even at the doctors. And this growing racist trend is actively shutting Muslim women out of jobs, education, and public life, with the main defense, that it's somehow happening for our own benefit so that we can be free. And whenever Muslim women are the topic of the day in relation to the lack of, let's say, female services in mosques, the fact that a senior politician is likening some of us to bank robbers and post boxes, or that we too, like every other community throughout history and around the world, face abuse at home, it's another excuse to further isolate us and silence us. And in so many ways, it would be really easy for us to hide under the covers, because it could all just get too much, too heavy, and way too depressing. But that's absolutely the feeling that we have to fight. You could say that I had no choice over the matter of doing just that. Since the age of 7, all I've witnessed is my mother fighting, and with one goal in mind: the education of her daughters. We left my home country of Algeria overnight amidst the civil war, and following a few close calls, including a bomb being planted in my father's lecture theatre, my parents thought enough is enough. My parents didn't tell us that we'd be leaving for good, and I think part of them wouldn't accept it as a reality. But they left everything behind for education, literally to ensure that me and my sisters could study in safety. Because for them, it was the most powerful weapon that they could give us. For my parents, education was the source of our emancipation, because it gives you the ability to understand your reality, and even more than that, to create the solutions that would lead to our freedom. So at a young age, I understood all that my parents were willing to sacrifice for something that they considered so valuable, and it was in reality priceless. And ever since then, I've spent my years at school, college, and university fighting for the right to education, not just locally, but globally. And I thought, when we first moved, I actually thought that I was moving to the wealthiest country in the world, a developed nation. And yet, I left Algeria, where the government literally paid young people to attend university, to one where tuition fees alone are the equivalent of a down payment on a house. And the injustice and inequality found in our education system is something that I just couldn't accept. The massive divides between rich and poor, black and white, disabled and not, migrant and national, men and women, and so on. And I believe that education is a universal right, not a privilege. And the more that I progressed with my studies, the stronger that conviction became, that I couldn't just stand by and let one government after another destroy that idea and actively price people out of their future. In this journey, as a Muslim woman of color, it wasn't easy, to say the least. Because when you're fighting for the transformation of a whole system, into another that removes privilege and redistributes power, it's already a challenge. But then to be identifiably other in a society that is actively rejecting difference, it becomes incredibly violent. And I, like so many others, kept going despite attacks in the media, government reports going after me, by sector officials, and pretty much wherever I went, because I understood that actually this wasn't personal. It wasn't my name or my incredibly big curly hair that they were going after. They were coming after what I represented, and they were and continue to be completely and utterly afraid of Muslim women fighting for justice. So coming back to those strikes that I spoke of at the beginning, some of you may know that thousands of years ago, the first ever recorded strike took place in modern-day Egypt. Enslaved workers in the construction sites of the pyramids went on strike to demand more lentils in their daily meals. Just lentils, not to bring down Pharaoh or end their condition, but to be fed properly at the end of the day. And to achieve that, they had to radically disrupt one of the largest construction projects of all time. The story doesn't tell us that the workers of ancient Egypt were radicals set on jeopardizing good construction times for a crappy bowl of lentils. It tells us that Pharaoh was such a tyrant that what it took to fill ordinary people's bellies was such a grand and radical action. Taking matters into our own hands through the organization of a struggling and oppressed people has brought us many things as humans on this earth. The end to slavery, the universal vote, the overthrowing of governments, and the breakdown of entire oppressive regimes. But they've also done much simpler things, like raise people's pay, given us weekends, and rendered hate and oppression a shameful thing of the past. At my first event with HHUGS, which was in London, the feeling that I walked away with was a little difficult to describe. It was kind of a mixture between empowerment and anger. And I guess I channeled it into my writing and also supporting the work that this charity does. The sisters that I met, the stories that I heard, reinforced what so many of us as Muslim women know deep down, that whatever they push into the shadows, we will illuminate. Whatever they try to silence, we will amplify, and whatever they destroy, we will rebuild. Those impacted by the policies of this government, the very people seeking support from HHUGS, are some of those unknown warriors that fight at times when they have lost absolutely everything. They've been shunned from those closest to them and abandoned by every section of society that they were told would be there to help. Arundhati Roy put it more beautifully than I could when she said, "To love, to be loved, to never forget your own insignificance, to never get used to the unspeakable violence, the vulgar disparity of life around you, to seek joy in the saddest places, to pursue beauty to its lair, to never simplify what is complicated or complicate what is simple, to respect strength, never power, above all to watch, to try and understand, to never look away, and never, never to forget." So I'd like to invite you all, which is something that I feel is becoming tradition now at HHUGS tea events. I'd like to invite all those that can or wish to stand and to just give a minute's silence to reflect on all those who have lost their lives to the violence, to any form of violence, to the women who have sacrificed themselves for our freedoms and the liberation of all those unknown by us who have fought and who continue to fight for a better world. So please stand. Thank you very much.